मयि अवेश्य मनो ये माम् नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेता ते मे युक्तात्मा मतः। श्री भगवान उवाच मयि आवेश्य मनो ये माम् नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेता ते मे युक्तात्मा मतः। Word towards Nolam. Translation and purport by Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bhagwan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Mai, upon me, Avesha, fixing, Manaha, the mind, Ye, those who, Mam, me, Nitya, always, Yuktaha, engaged, Upasate, worship, Shraddhaya, with faith, Paraya, transcendental, Upetaha, endowed, they, me, may, by me, Yukta, Tamaha, most perfect in yoga, Mataha, are considered. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Upon me, fixing the mind, those who me always engaged, worship with faith, transcendental endowed, they by me, most perfect in yoga, are considered. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect. Purport. In answers in answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, um, what I realize from this verse is that here Lord Shri Krishna first saying which is superior and best, and worshipping personal form of the Lord with great transcendental faith is the best. And Srila Prabhupada are explaining the point that first of all we should have faith and devotion. Then our activities will become um, then our activities will become Krishna conscious. Because with 100% faith and attachment to Krishna, when we act, then we will always put Krishna in the center, and all our activities will become spiritualized, like chanting, working, cooking, buying, cleaning, everything. And Srila Prabhupada are saying he doesn't let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. So, this is the real meaning of samadhi. I have heard before samadhi when yogis sit in meditation for very long time. That is samadhi. Actually, samadhi is to be in Krishna consciousness in 24 hours. All our activities and attention will be in Krishna consciousness. So this is samadhi. And another point is that Krishna said, first of all, first our mind be fixed in personal form, and then engaging in worshipping. So we have to fix our mind um, in Krishna first, then our senses will follow. Mind is above the senses, and above mind is intelligence. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 42, says this that Indriyani Parani Ahur Indriyebhyaha Param Manaha Manastu Para Buddhi Yo Buddhe Paratastu Saha. Translation: the working senses are superior to dull matter, and mind is higher than senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. And Srila Prabhupada are saying in the purport that mind is active even when body and senses are silent and resting, like dreams in our sleep. So one has to strengthen the mind with intelligence and engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. So I have realized that by studying Srila Prabhupada's books and attending programs and chanting, our mind get engaged in Krishna consciousness activities. And thus we can engage and center all our activities in Krishna consciousness, because ultimately our goal is to remember Krishna always and never forget him. So here the Lord are saying who is the most perfect and who uh, is worship. Sorry, who is the most perfect? He who will worship his personal form with great faith and devotion. So the great faith and devotion is also matters, because Krishna consciousness um, performed joyfully. So once we get the taste, or we get our attachment increases, then our devotion will increase. So putting Krishna in center, and then we'll do everything that will um, increase our bhakti. And that's what the whole process is that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So we try to follow that. So this is the points that I have realized from this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Sanjay Prabhu, for your nice realization. We are on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 2, devotional service. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Vesha Mano Emam Nityayukta Upasate Sradhya Paryopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be the most perfect. Thank you, Amrish Prabhuji. Thank you, Purnapanda Devi Dashi Mataji. And thank you, Krishna Samarpan Das, for giving us an opportunity to give our realization. So, from this verse in particular, in translation, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that, Lord declares here that Krishna confirms that the direct devotional service to his personal form, that is Shyamasundar form, is the highest path. Srila Prabhupada emphasized on the faith in Krishna's personal form, and Srila Prabhupada says that it is essential to progress in our bhakti. So Sanjay Prabhu also mentioned about the samadhi. I heard about samadhi in a couple of lectures. In Srila Prabhupada says that samadhi is actually, that nothing else but it's Krishna consciousness, and one must engage continuously 24 hours. So we have to strengthen our mind, and that mind will strengthen only if we are sincere and constantly engage in devotional service. Here in verse, it says that Nitya Yukta Upasate. So Nitya Yukta means always engaged, which also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse 13. Srila Prabhupada explains that the greatest devotees, Mahatmas, are always engaged in Krishna's service and they do not fall into any material activities. Actually, Mahatmas, they are not attracted to any other lords of futures except Sham Sundar form. Also in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 2, Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 3, Srila Prabhupada explains there that those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada explains in purport that we have to expand our faith, meaning accepting Krishna's supremacy and engaging in his service with full conviction. So bhakti is the process of actually Srila Prabhupada has given a very nice example about the radio. When we want to catch up any particular station of the radio, then we tune accordingly. The same way, we should tune accordingly in our Krishna consciousness. And similarly, our heart must be aligned with Krishna through devotion and faith. So we must always tune our thinking, always tune our bhakti in Krishna consciousness. So this path, like impersonalism path, is very difficult because Srila Prabhupada says that it lacks a sweetness of Krishna's personal reciprocation. Actually, Krishna desires our loving devotion, not just knowledge, but uh, Lord desires we should love Lord with our sincerity. Even like I struggle with the material distraction, but if sincerely, if we try to give a devotional service, and then our heart will gradually purifies. So what is that means to me is fixing the mind on Krishna means 100% surrendering to Krishna and accepting him as my supreme goal. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 18, in purport, Srila Prabhupada again explained that the devotional service and the engagement in Krishna consciousness should be always, this is actually a blissful activity. The devotees enjoys this transcendental occupation in the service of the Lord, and Srila Prabhupada says it is guaranteed that he will receive a spiritual body fit to be associated with the Lord. So I have to focus on Krishna's personal form through worshipping, chanting, and hearing. Also, I have to develop faith by associating with the devotees and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Also, serve Krishna with love, knowing that this is the easiest and the topmost joyful path. So, this is my realization from this verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much, Sanjeev Prabhu and Sopan Prabhu, for very nice realizations, as usual. So we are on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 2. A very important chapter, devotional service. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Veshamano Yema नित्ययुक्त उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपते श्रद्धया परयोपते ते मे युक्ततमा मता श्रीभगवानुवाच मयि आवेशमनो ये माम् नित्ययुक्त उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मता. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Blessed Lord said, "He whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect." So, Srila Gurudev, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, ki jai, is to lay a lot of emphasis on the importance of this chapter, devotional service, because in Samam Munam, this is Krishna consciousness. It tells us about Krishna consciousness. It tells us about how our life should be. And the recitation of all the verses of chapter 12 as well. Just made a few points on this verse. And the first word that actually came to my mind was samadhi, full samadhi. So action in Krishna consciousness. So as Sanjay Prabhu was also pointing out earlier that our conception of samadhi was that you sit in a place and you're in meditation earlier before coming to understand Srila Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness. And very much so, from the life of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, we can see that actually doing your devotional service is also being in full samadhi. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives examples of how a pure devotee is constantly engaged in chanting or hearing or reading books about Krishna, cooking prasadam, or going to the marketplace. So every activity that we do should be for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada mentions also that there are two types of activities. One activity which is done for Krishna and one which is not done for Krishna. So the same activity, if it is done for Krishna's purpose, then it is validated, it is correct. And the same action, if is not done in Krishna consciousness, can have completely different repercussion. For example, killing by Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because he was doing it for Krishna, then that is as per dharma and to establish the religious principles. Whereas if that same activity is done not for Krishna, then it is a very different repercussion. So it sounds very, sometimes I feel like it sounds very simple. Everything I'm doing for Krishna consciousness. All my activities I'm doing for Krishna conscious. All the activities I'm doing for Krishna. So all my activities are Krishna conscious. But the most important thing I felt here was the word samadhi, that the consciousness in with which we are doing the activity. I think that is the most important thing as far as my understanding is of this verse. As Sopan Prabhuji also pointed out that one has to have complete faith in Krishna and accepting Krishna's supremacy. So if my consciousness while I'm doing the activities is focused on pleasing Krishna, trying to please Krishna, rather than having some motivation or condition or attachment di- uh, to that activity. That is the biggest challenge, because we all identify ourselves so much. We read that hum brahmasmi, we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. But still, in everyday our actions, we attach ourselves so much to the body. My this, my that. Everything is attached to us. The relationships, the activities, everything. So how do we detach from that and go on a level of serving Krishna? That is the biggest challenge, because if we are still living in this material world and we are affected by the three kinds of activities around us, so how do you stay in that full samadhi, in that state of consciousness where I think Sanjay Prabhu also mentioned about this, that we have to always remember Krishna and never forget him too. So that is the state of consciousness that we need to achieve. And then, of course, for that, Srila Prabhupada says, for that you need to do the devotional service. So it's interlinked. To achieve that goal, we are going through the process, which is also the goal in itself. By doing the devotional activity, we can achieve that level of consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions that there are 8.4 million species. So there are 8.4 million different types of consciousness also, plus multiply by even in the human form, there are 400,000 levels of different levels of consciousness. So and we can see that from our own experience, how we think the same thing, how people around us can think very differently, and it can be perceived differently. So we have examples of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev in front of us, how they conducted their lives as pure devotees, where every activity was for Krishna. There was no prajalpa. There was always talking about Krishna, and all the focus was on pleasing Krishna. Mm. Also, the words faith and devotion um, are very important. So we can be our best judge. It's a very self-assessment process. We know what our consciousness was 1 year back and what it is now. This is, I remember Srila Gurudev Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami always used to say, how do you know that you're progressing? You check yourself, how your consciousness was 1 year back and how it is now. Is it developed? Is there any change? Like Prabhuji Amreshwar always says, Hari Kripa tab janiye jab dikhe apna dosh. So that is one of the very important qualities also in the self-assessment process, that what importance we are giving, how much importance we are giving to activities in our life which are actually not important, and how we can navigate this path by focusing on the most important activity, because time is not waiting, it's just running, and we're chasing time always in the material world. Doesn't stop for anyone. And one day we can be on our deathbed and we can regret so many things we should have done or should not have done. So Srila Gurudev always says, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami always says, imagine every day you're on your deathbed. And I think it's a very powerful sentence, that we have to be very serious about devotional service. We have to see what our acharyas have done, how they have performed devotional service. All the examples of all the devotees who have been so much dedicated in their devotional service to Krishna. Everyone was acting for Krishna and not for their own selves. So the first consciousness that I feel has to come to our mind is, when I'm performing my devotional service, it's not about me. It's not about how I feel. I like it, I don't like it, and this is completely. I feel like we have to come out of that consciousness, and we have to go on a level of consciousness where we can accept what is Krishna's wish. We can sit and think, what is it that Krishna wants us to do, and then take some time to understand, process, and perform our devotional service. Otherwise, even in devotional service, in our spiritual activities, our material thought process is still dominating the devotional service. And how will we then be able to achieve that unalloyed, pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service? It is, as much as it is very simple, I always tell myself, we have to think that we are talking about performing pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. It is a very serious matter, very, very serious matter. And we have been so fortunate to come into contact with such great personalities as Srila Prabhupada, as Srila Gurudev, that we should not let this opportunity go. Srila Prabhupada says that, in this lifetime, you finish it off. You try to go back to Godhead. You do not want to come back here. Kali Yuga is progressing. There is another 400,000 or so many years. Then Kalki avatar will come, Krishna's avatar. So you can keep taking birth until that avatar comes, but it is going to be very, very difficult. This is the best time to get out of here. So I feel very, very fortunate, and yet I feel that there is this constant battle also, where you're still staying in this material world, and then you cannot just ignore everything around you and not do things, but how we can dovetail those activities to keep the focus that we are performing this ultimately to be able to do our devotional service for Krishna. Then slowly all the inabilities and everything goes away, and then Krishna takes charge. I was just reading the purport, and in the old book it is said, because everything is done by Krishna, and then in the new purport is said for Krishna. So first, when I read by Krishna, I thought, does it mean that actually Krishna, when you reach that level of consciousness, then actually there is no material activities because everything is done by Krishna? I understand for Krishna, but by Krishna, I was contemplating that ultimately we have to leave that driving that wheel in our hands and hand it over to Krishna, like Arjuna handed over, his chariot to Krishna. Of course, we don't want Krishna to be our servant. We are Krishna's servant. It's please don't get me wrong, but what I mean to say is that trying to do our activities which are in alignment with the will of the Lord and not anti. Understanding that, coming to that position, that is the greatest achievement. And then that way we can achieve pure, unalloyed, uninterrupted, and unmotivated devotional service in this lifetime. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, His Grace Ambrish Prabhu, Her Grace Purnibarna Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpana Krishna Prabhu. And thank you, all the devotees, for tolerating and tolerating for for my behavior, for my realization, for my incompetence in bhakti. And thank you, devotees, for giving realizations. And I feel Mataji shared a lot of my point, which I had made a note that I'm going to share the same kind of realization. I have a similar feeling, Mataji. So you have actually verbalized this very nicely. So to start with is this verse, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Vesha Mano Yema Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetaste Viyukta Tama Mataha. Translation Vishla version. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So Krishna is talking about devotional service. As Mata said, it's a very important chapter. And we'll go very systematic knowledge Krishna is going to give here in this chapter. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, what is devotee? What is pure devotee? Which we keep preaching in our discussions. Prabhupada writes, a pure devotee is constantly engaged. Yeah, that's we all know. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or read books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activity to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. So this is very well explained by Mataji and Sanjeev Prabhu and Supan Prabhu. The problem is not what to do. The problem is how to do. That's our challenge, how to come out of this mess. And that's where I struggle all the time because of my limitations. And we are talking about the mind. And the mind is the most, it can be enemy and it can be friend, as Krishna has said in chapter 6. And also, we are in preaching business. We have taken preaching as our devotional activity, as a prime devotional activities. And as we have discussed in the past, the preaching is in mode of passion. And that makes you to judge people, that makes you to correct people, that makes you to get upset, angry, and all sorts of feeling. So in that situation, how do you control your mind? And that's my biggest challenge at the moment. So even in that Nectar 1, Nectar instruction, that the famous verse we all know very well, which is for preachers, who are representing their guru. So that is a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the action of anger, and the urges of tongues, belly and desire is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Again, it's written here what to do to make a disciple or to represent your guru or to actually go and preach, to engage yourself, spread the message of Krishna consciousness so that your mind is engaged. And preaching, to me, it's very hard. And the other point which I keep repeating is it's not what we say, it's not how we look like, it's how we do things, how we behave. And that's where personal association becomes so critical. Prabhupada has written thousands of letters, has translated Bhagavatam, which I struggle to even read those purports, and so much in 11 years. So many scriptures while he was preaching. So to get into that situation where preaching and scripture goes hand by hand, for me, I'm struggling a lot. And particularly when you have to show them by action. I spent 10 months in Nagpur. I have seen these devotees who look so nice on the screen now. And I tell them all the time, I have a class tonight also, where I've seen their behavior, I've seen them how they do things. But what I feel that they have learned a lot of things by seeing me, and that's where I was so much stressed. It was a big problem for me. And that's why I always give example of Prabhuji and Mataji, Ambrish Prabhu and Mataji. And same thing, we can talk a lot of things from here, but unless this acharan comes, which I don't know how it will happen, I'm still keep thinking about it. So I would like all of you to bless me so that I can probably read scriptures more seriously. I'm trying to read, and when I read those scriptures, particularly Bhagavatam, the Bhagavatam, so many streets, it's complete Bollywood, as we all know. It's so much drama, so many things happening, and the contextual thing in a different place, times, and circumstances. How do, without Prabhupada purports, those Bhagavatam verses have not made sense to me. And that's what Maharaj also said. Prabhupada brings them down to our level. So while I was reading in our last class in Science of Self-Realization, it referred chapter 11 in there, where necessity of finding a spiritual master. That is chapter where Prabhupada is writing, and that's where chapter 11, Canto 11 was being discussed. So out of curiosity, I read that chapter. And in that chapter also, same discussion happening between Uddhav and Krishna, when Krishna is preaching. And same point coming there also, but a different context. And it's my limitation that in Satya Yuga, I'll probably read it out and then probably share my reaction quickly. I know I'm taking a lot of time. Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, your questions is faithful to religious principle, and thus gives rise to highest perfection in life. Your question is faithful to religious principle. Sorry, I'll start again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Uddhav, your question is faithful to religious principle and thus give rise to the highest perfection in life. Pure devotional service for both ordinary human beings and the followers of Varnashram system." So in that stage also, Krishna is talking about those two different stages. Now, please learn from me those supreme religious principles. And then Krishna, it's not many, probably a couple of more. And then Krishna keeps saying, in the beginning, in Satya Yuga, there is only one social class called Hansa, to which all human beings belong. In that age, all people are unalloyed devotees of the Lord from birth, and thus learned scholars call this first age Krita Yuga, or the age in which all religious duties are perfectly fulfilled. That's Hansa Yuga. And that existed in Satya Yuga in the initial part of this. And then Krishna says, in Satya Yuga, the undivided Veda is expressed by the syllable Om. And I am the only object of mental activities. Then people are not doing anything else. I became manifest as the four-legged bull of religion, and thus the inhabitants of Satyuga, fixed in austerity and free from all sins, worship me as Lord Hamsa. So this description comes when we read Bhagavatam in chapter Canto 1 also. And then just this is the last verse where Krishna talks about Treta Yuga. It's very interesting, so I thought I'll quickly share. Oh, greatly fortunate one, at the beginning of Treta Yuga, Vedic knowledge appeared from my heart, which is the abode of the air of life in three divisions, as Rig, Sam, and Yajur. Then from that knowledge I appeared as threefold sacrifices. So from Treta Yuga, all these Varnashram system manifested. So all this knowledge which is in Bhagavatam, and believe me, and then the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, as Mataji said, life is too short. Life is just running in a fast track. And particularly when you cross 60, it is like sand coming out of your hand, no? When you hold the sand. So time is running very fast. So, and that's where I'm struggling to preach or to study scriptures, or not study, just enjoy and absorb the scriptures, particularly Prabhupada's realizations. Because Maharaj has said that our devotional activity or our bhakti depends on how much time we spend with Bhagavatam. So that's always, I have not spent a lot of time with Maharaj, maybe a couple of meetings. But I know Amrish Prabhu has spent a lot of time with, from 2002, 3, I think, till Maharaj departed. So that's why probably Amrish Prabhu keeps talking about Maharaj, and Mataji also. I remember they will go there, Nasik and all those things. But I never realized. But I realized a couple of those instructions from Maharaj, he personally spoke to me about studying this Bhagavatam. And that's my struggle going on. That's my relation for this week. Sorry, I was not very relevant. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhu, Hare Sandhya Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Sandarpan Krishna Prabhu for training and actually allowing us to study and share our realization in this forum. And thank you, Sopan Prabhuji, Sanjay Prabhu, Padma Mataji, and Vinash Prabhuji for a very nice realization. So most of the points are actually discussed, on this verse. And I have also meditated on similar points, but I'll still share my realization. Sri Bhagwan Uvacha Maya Vesha Mano Ema Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Pariyopeta Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshiping me with a great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So, in the first verse of this chapter, Arjun, he asked the question, actually, who is considered to be most perfect? Is it personalist or the impersonalist Mayavadis? So here, actually, Krishna is answering, and he said that one who meditate on his personal form and worship him with a great faith, transcendental faith, is considered to be most perfect by him. And Srila Prabhupada has given very nice purport on this. And as most of the devotees, they explain that such action is in full samadhi. So actually, always engaging in serving Lord Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada, I heard the lecture from Srila Prabhupada. I remember his lecture on the Srimad Bhagavatam verse. Savai Pumsa Parodharmo Yathor Bhaktir Adokshaja Prasiddhiti. So Srila Prabhupada was actually explaining this point, and he actually at the time he said that actually one can be vividly that one can actually become yogas 24/7 in full samadhi, absorbed in Krishna's service. And similar point were actually discussed there that services for Krishna. In fact, actually, all the services or all the activities that you do on daily basis can be actually directed towards Krishna. You can actually cook, what you shop, what you clean, whatever occupation you do, everything can be actually engaged in the service of the Krishna. As long as the result of this activities is so. So how actually we are trying to do the same in our program, actually. So we try to cook for the actually program. We also here we study, share our realizations. So that is also devotional service. But is it been actually performed in a transcendental mood? So here in the translation, it says that one who is actually fixed their mind on my personal form are always engaging worshipping me with a great and transcendental faith. So here it says a transcendental faith. Just didn't say that just a faith, transcendental faith. And I was actually meditating. I heard this point as well before, and I was meditating on a similar point. What it means to be by transcendental faith. So as we know that actually devotional service begin with actually Shraddha, as we studied in chapter 9. But in initial stages, actually here is a transcendental faith. So there should be a thing like the actually faith, which is has material qualities or actually affected by material modes. So some may be under the mode of passion, mode of ignorance, or mode of even goodness. So whatever mode we are, and if actually in that mode, actually, if we render the service, which is not perfectly transcendental, or as it is said, ahetuki apratihata, which is not actually tainted by material motives. then it can be called a transcendental service. So how actually, we can get to the stage that we can say that we have a transcendental faith, or we can render a transcendental devotional service. So Savai Pumsa Paro Dharma. Translation says that the highest occupational service is to render transcendental service to the Lord. Again, the same word, transcendental. And it is actually further explained, ahetuki apratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted service. So we know this actually point quite, and we discussed this many times. So I was meditating on same that how we get there, and same thing what Avinash Prabhu said, that we know the philosophy, but the real challenge is how we actually practically implement it. So we have the knowledge. So I was thinking about this, and we always say that the process is the end. So whatever process we currently follow to become Krishna conscious, and that is the end goal. But currently, actually, what I am doing is a Mrishnan Bhakti, because I'm not perfectly pure. Because we still actually have material desire attached to material things. So actually, if you follow what we're doing and actually try to improve ourselves, as it is said, and I memorized this verse, that Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janitashu Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. So when we actually render a loving devotional service, if you actually do our service in loving mood, then actually Krishna automatically reveals the knowledge within our heart. And once we have the knowledge and we try to implement it, then actually detachment will gradually come. So this knowledge is also given. So we just need to have actually full faith, as Sopan Prabhuji said, that we need to have full faith in Krishna. And as actually the instructions that we receive from our program, Srila Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada. So the instruction has to be actually implemented, in practical. And as we implement more and more, then hopefully we will progress and we develop this actually transcendental faith that that will help us to become fully Krishna conscious. So even actually engaging all our activities in Krishna's service, we can do that. And Amrish Prabhu also explained this point many times. That he always used to ask the question, what is the difference between other people, the people, materialistic people? Even we are materialistic, I am materialistic, but people who are not interested in actually becoming Krishna conscious, what is the difference between their activities and our activities? I remember actually this discussion. So the only difference is that we do the similar things. We clean the house, we cook, we eat, but actually we try to actually focus these activities around Krishna, and they don't do that. They actually do it purely for their enjoyment, to satisfy their own senses. So we are also actually very much. I am actually talking about myself, that I want to actually satisfy my senses, but actually at least we are following this process. At least we know every time we do things, we know that actually we should offer it to Krishna first and then accept it. So because these points, actually initial discussions, actually the same philosophy, now I realize when we study all these verses is the same discussions we had in the past. And actually, as Avinash Prabhu says, that actually, our actually main business in our program, as Amrish Prabhu also said, that we are actually creating a preacher, and we want everyone to preach. So even preaching, actually planning for preaching, studying, or actually being anxious for doing activities is also a devotional service. So yes, actually, as we engage more and more in these activities, studying, sharing realization, preaching, or doing various activities, then hopefully this will all help, in developing actually to developing our faith. It will become a transcendental. So this is actually the realization I got while actually meditating on this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhuji, Her Grace Kul Pragya Devi Dasi Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhuji for giving us this platform to share our realizations and learning so much from the experience of other devotees. And thank you all the devotees for your very nice and elaborate explanation of this verse and realizations. So we are studying today Bhagavad Gita chapter 12, verse number 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vishya Mano Ima Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Paradyupitas Yukta Tamamata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So, as we know that in the previous verse, Arjuna had a question that who is considered to be more perfect, those who are properly engaged in your devotional service or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. So this was the question, and now Krishna is answering. And in this verse, Krishna clearly says that one who concentrates upon his personal form, which is Maya Aveshya, and with full faith and devotion worships him, is the most perfect devotee. Yuktatama, most perfect. Also in chapter Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 47, Krishna says that Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Vado Gatenantaratmana Shraddhavan Bhajate Yomam Sane Yuktatamo Mataha. And of all, Yogi is the one with great faith who always abides on me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So again, the person who is giving the personal service to Krishna and always thinking about him, doing the loving devotional service unto him, he is the highest. He is the best one. That's what Krishna says. So, as we have already, all the devotees have shared that how we do the devotional service, that we get very close to Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us a very nice path, and he has shown us by example, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, that how we can 24/7 always 100% remember Krishna if we are faithfully and with devotion doing the transcendental loving service to Krishna. Cooking for Krishna, cleaning for Krishna, whatever. Krishna is in the center and all the activities going around him. As Amrish Prabhu has always highlighted in many classes, that what is the difference between a normal karmi and a devotee, because both are doing the same activities, but only difference is the difference of consciousness, which Pragya Mataji has very nicely explained. The consciousness, if we are Krishna conscious, if Krishna is in our consciousness all the time, that then all the same activities which anyone else is doing and a devotee is doing is validated. And so the most important thing is the consciousness in which we are performing the devotional service or any work which is done for Krishna. That is why, that is how Krishna says that you do all the activities but give all the results to him, because he is the one who is the owner, not us. We are the servants. So how do we stay in that transcendental consciousness, that all the time we always remember Krishna and never forget him, which is very difficult when we interact with three modes of material nature, and when our faith is not that strong, then the mind is wavering. He goes here and there all the time. So to keep our mind on a right track, Srila Prabhupada's lectures are there, Srila Prabhupada's chanting is there, his books are there, devotees, Sangha is there, and then so many activities for Krishna are there. So they keep devotee focused, so that he doesn't go here and there, and he's focused on those activities and always remember Krishna. And that is 24/7, everything doing for Krishna. That is the activity which can take one take one closer to Krishna. And always thinking of Krishna is samadhi. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. So it's very practical that just keep Krishna in the middle, in the main focus, and doing all the activities, because he is the owner, not us. We are just, Srila Gurudev always says that we are just here caretakers. We are not the owners. So we are just taking care of everything for Krishna, because owner is Krishna. So doing all the work for him as servants. And we are all getting all the benefits as well. So struggle is the only, for my struggle is that 24/7 doing all the activities in Krishna consciousness sometimes becomes difficult for me, because mind goes here and there. But just when we have devotee Sangha, then again everything is on the right track. So this is the my realization for this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So looks like we have come to the end of everyone's realization. So thank you very much, dear devotees, for your wonderful realizations. And please, yes, you have got inclination because we have taught you whatever we have learned. That doesn't make us very big devotees. Thank you for your kind words. Please bless us so we can progress in our bhakti. There are very wonderful points which all of you have mentioned today. From Sanjeev Prabhu, also Sir Sridhar Prabhu, Avinash Prabhu. You know. So there are many points and many quests. I can see there's a question of the quest has come in. So I was waiting for this, where we come from the level of taking personal responsibility. We must come to this. Because personal responsibility is very important. Just like in the material platform, we take our personal responsibility. You make a wrong investment decision, you lose the money. So you cannot go and complain to say that, okay, this is wrong, I lost money. So say, you took a decision, yes, you took a decision. So why don't you think about it properly? So you have no one to complain about. Buyers beware. Yeah? So now I'm seeing as a servant, there is buyers beware has come into all of you. Is slipping in, which is very, very important. Because when we are in buyers beware, then all our guards are up. We are not sleeping. Otherwise, we are sleeping. We have to flog you to say this is what it is, this is what it is. Okay, okay. And you don't really connect the things. And now, after some points, I can see that what we were discussing in the past is connected today. This is how it is now. The circle is coming completed. So now this gives me more impotence to share some other personal realization with all my humility. These are my personal realizations. It's not big deal, but it's for me. And I'm training for leaders Sangha in Hare Krishna WECAN. So it is this. I'm not some very big devotee and all that, The point is this. We all want to associate with a pure devotee. Am I right? Can you say yes or no, please?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we all want to associate with pure devotees. Do you know what it takes to associate with a pure devotee or with Krishna? We all think that to associate with a pure devotee is very blissful. Right? We are dancing and we are enjoying. Correct? Is it what we think it is? Being associating with Krishna in Golok Vrindavan or with Krishna when he comes here, and we are it's impossible, but still it is possible. All of it may be possible. That when we associate with them, we will have this wonderful nectar going on. Bhagavatam is going on. Bhagavad Gita is going on. Yeah, is what we think like this? What do you think? Can you hear? Can I hear from you? Yes or no? Now raise a doubt in you. So you're thinking now. Tell me the correct answer. What do you think? Is what you think?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, the thing that in Golok Vrindavan, everyone is
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, that's right. Now, even in material world, if you associate pure devotees and Krishna is what we will be doing happy, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah. I used to think everything will be very joyful and blissful in the actually Golok Vrindavan, spiritual world. But in the material world, I thought it's not everything will be joyful. There will be difficult times because I've seen even Srila Prabhupada was pure devotee, but he actually came across many difficulties in his preaching. But even actually, it sounded like he may be suffering, but actually he was never suffering. He's always enjoying that transcendental male of serving Krishna. So that's what I thought, Prabhuji. Unless we get to the stage of actually pure devotional service, we are actually suffering. Probably once we get there, probably we will not feel the pain. That was my understanding.
And when we are associating with them, I'm really talking about that point of view.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So when you associate with pure devotees or with Krishna, we'll always be very, very happy, correct?
Yes, yeah, we get that.
Yeah, okay. Let's hear from others. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I don't think like this, Prabhu. I never think like this.
Yeah, so my question is this, that you'll be very happy or you will be not happy, you'll be
No,
distressed.
I don't think about happiness, Prabhu.
So when you associate with your devotee or with Krishna, so what will be our experience there? How do we associate with him? Okay, if nobody is going to answer, then I think I don't want to reveal my answer. Thank you. Jai. Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki Jai. Vishnu God Chandra Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vishnu.